Recording with external mic. All right. It's on my end. It's recording.
All right, recording on my end. Name, age, disability level of paralysis, team name, and how long they've been. And how long.
I got you. All right. What's my name? What's my age again? There's gonna be a lot of editing. My name is Josh Green. I'm 34. Originally from Philly. I have spina bifida. My paralysis is at L2 due to the spina bifida, and I currently play for the Las Vegas Yuccas. Been playing for them for 2 years now.
What do you enjoy most about playing?
The thing I love most about playing, the thing I enjoy most, it's the team atmosphere, the relying on someone else relying on you, the ability to do something and it actually matter to someone else. It's hard to explain. Let's get back to that one later.
What is the most difficult thing about playing?
Losing. Losing is definitely the most difficult thing about playing. You try so hard during practices. You do everything you can for your teammates, and sometimes it's unfortunately just not your time to win. And I think the worst part though is when it's like a 2 or 3 point game, and you know there was like 2 chances you had. It doesn't hurt as bad when you lose by 40 because you just weren't the better team that night. But when you lose a close game, I still have some from my 20s that are still haunting me.
How did you get injured, and what effect has that had on your life?
I was born with my disability. It's actually been a pretty easy ride for me because of that. So I don't really think I've ever had any to adjust to anything, to adapt to anything. So like I said, I think I'm pretty lucky. There's a lot of people involved with the sport who were injured, whether it's in a car accident, shooting. In today's society, most of them, or a lot of them, are coming back from war. War injured. So it's another way. But like I said, I think I've had it pretty good. I did have one surgery, I think when I was 19 or 20, where I did lose some movement in my trunk and in my legs, which it was difficult to get used to, but for the most part, I've been the same since I was born, so there was really no adjustment period for me, which I'm definitely lucky for.
You mentioned the surgery and you lost. How was it adjusting to that, knowing that you lost some functionality?
Adjusting to what I lost from the surgery was difficult for, I'd say, the first 2 or 3 months because I was completely bedridden. My ex and I were living at my mom's house at the time, and they actually got a hospital bed, and I was stationed in the living room. I had no movement of my lower extremities at all, so I was having to have help transferring, to shower, to do anything that was outside of that bed. So it was difficult. The surgery was in August. I started playing sports again that November, I believe it was, and once I made it back to the first practice or second practice, no, it was October. Once I made it to practice, it was softball. It wasn't even basketball, that practice, and I was able to throw the softball to someone at full strength. It made me feel like, okay, this is going to be a long recovery. It's going to be a long road, but there is a light at the end of it, and in my face right now.
Since your initial disability and then your surgery, how's your relationships been affected?
For the most part, I haven't had any difficulties with relationships due to my disability or anything like that. However, I do think with my ex after the surgery, because she, for all intents and purposes, for about 6 weeks was almost like a home health aide. And I don't think she knew what she was getting herself into. I didn't know what I was getting myself into with that. I definitely think it took away some of the romance in the relationship. Other than that, though, I don't really think it's ever affected any relationships or anything because it's all I've ever known. It's all I've ever been through.
What would you say is the biggest challenge, not necessarily maybe for you, for adapting to life in a wheelchair, but having to figure out how to navigate the world in a wheelchair?
I think the biggest part, or the most difficult part about being a disabled person in today's society isn't anything I have to go through. If there's steps or something like that, I either won't go or I'll go with someone who can help me. I think the biggest problem is the misconception of others and what the disabled community can and can't do. That's the biggest thing.
What, in your opinion, are those misconceptions?
There are still a lot of people that can't decipher between disabled as in physically handicapped or some sort of mental handicap. To a lot of people, it's still all one and the same. Whereas I can't even tell you how many people I know who have bachelor's degrees, who have master's degree. One of my closest friends, who has spina bifida as well, is in a doctorate program. So the biggest misconception, and also that I don't want to say that they as in the able-bodied community don't know what they're I don't want to say that the able-bodied community doesn't think we know what's best for us, but the able-bodied community sometimes is too easy to help in ways we don't need help. If I'm pushing up a hill, let me push. Don't get behind me and touch my chair, please. That's like me getting behind you and pushing you by the ass. No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Do you see your wheelchair as a hindrance to your daily living situation, or is it just another extension of you, just as it is with someone that wears glasses?
To me, the wheelchair really isn't any difference than my glasses on my face. It's what I do in the morning is I put my glasses on, put my wedding ring on, and hop in my wheelchair. That is my routine. It's the same. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong. There are some hindrances when it comes to being in a chair. If you're in a crowded place, you're going to run over people's shins, and they're not going to like it, but you got to get through somehow. Although, on the other side, though, some of the best seating I've ever had is because I've been in a wheelchair at concerts or sports sports. So there's both negatives and benefits to it, in my opinion.
Do you feel like those quote-unquote perks are an unfair advantage because you're getting potentially better seats than someone that's not in a wheelchair? I
don't feel that it's a unfair advantage or a perk if I'm getting better seats at a game or a concert or anything like that, because these same people that aren't disabled, that aren't in a wheelchair, are going to be standing up the entire time. So if I'm seated next to them or around them, I won't be able to see.
With that being said, have you faced any sort of discrimination for being in a wheelchair? Or by being in a wheelchair?
I've probably faced some discrimination for being in a wheelchair during my lifetime, but it's been so minute and far and few between that I can't really think of any off the top of my head. Although there was one instance I guess I can think of now. I was flying into LAX, and I was going to stay in a hostel in, I think, Hermosa Beach, California. So I called the hostel people to come pick me up, and I made definite sure to let them know, hey, I'm in a chair. So they said, no problem. When the guy got there with the van, he hops out, looks around, and say, hey, I think you're here for me. And he goes, oh, we have steps, sorry. And then gets in the van and leaves. Now, I'm stuck at LAX. One of the biggest, if not the biggest airport in the country. Never been to LA before in my life by myself. This was my first trip to LA by myself. Really had thank God I had a friend who let me stay with her without any hesitation or question. But I mean, that could have really, really been bad for me.
So, with that in mind, what changes would you like to see towards the disabled in terms of accessibility and the way they're treated and the way things are handled?
In my case, in particular, with the story I just shared, I think the best thing would be perfect honesty from the establishments. I think they need to make it clear if they have steps, if they have an elevator, they need to make that clear on their website or their pamphlet or brochure. And also, the disabled community does have a responsibility, in my opinion, to voice what they need, not to hide it or think that just because they make the reservation that their needs will be met right away. There's things out there that do need to be said. Hey, I'm in a chair. Oh, sorry, we have 3 flights of steps. That might be a problem. You need to know these things in advance. So I do think the disabled community does need to take a bit of responsibility with that as well.
What would you say to someone who's interested yet tentative about getting into wheelchair sports?
If there's anyone out there that's newly injured or that's been injured for a while or who's been disabled their whole life that hasn't really gotten into wheelchair sports but does have an interest in sports, I'd definitely say give it a try. There's so many different ones out there. Basketball is my first love. I'll play it probably until I can't play it anymore. But I've also given track and field a try. I've played softball. I've played tennis. I've tried sled hockey. I want to one day when I am more comfortable with snow again, I would like to probably try skiing. There's so many different things out there. It's find what you're interested in and do it. And those are just a few. There's so many sports out there. Just find what you're interested in. If there's an able-bodied equivalent, there's definitely something wheelchair related that's close.
Now, what impact would you say wheelchair basketball has had on your life? You've talked about playing other sports. What is it about wheelchair basketball that has made the most impact?
Wheelchair basketball, there's no other way to put it. Wheelchair basketball changed my life. When I got into sports in my teens, I had no direction. I didn't really know who I was. I knew I was this white kid in a black neighborhood who liked sports and was handicapped. That was really all I knew about me. But by playing the sports, playing wheelchair basketball, it taught me that I was capable. I was able to be on a team. I was having people depend on me to do something, and I was depending on others to do something. It gave me that brotherhood and sister. We had girls on our team too. It gave me that family, family and friend atmosphere that I just didn't think I felt with the able bodies because I guess I had never felt on their level, if that makes sense.
Now, would you say that you would have found that if you hadn't played wheelchair basketball, like you believe, or you'd still be a lost soul, so to speak, if not for wheelchair basketball?
I'm going to, just to preface, I'm going to have you look because I'm going to show my tattoo here in a second. I can guarantee you that my life would not be the way it is if I didn't find wheelchair basketball. It was one of the best things in my life. My first tattoo was, if I can get it, was the basketball with the chair.
Okay.
And I got that when I was 18 just to show how much the sport meant to me and how much of an impact it had on my life.
Are there any other wheelchair sports that you would like to get involved in? I know you said you've tried track and field and whatnot. Is there anything that you would like to be involved in that gives you the amount of passion that wheelchair basketball does?
I don't know if any other sport would give me the same satisfaction or I would have the same passion for that I have for basketball, just because I've been playing it for as many years, almost nonstop. But considering I live in such a beautiful city like Las Vegas, where the weather is damn near perfect all year round, I would love if we got a softball team. I really enjoyed playing softball, even though I was pretty bad at it. I would like to give sled hockey another try. I really found that to be fun, although I still don't really understand all of the rules, the ins and outs of hockey. Those are the main ones that are popping in my head now. That if the city of Las Vegas, if they were able to get them here, I'd be on board all day.
How is the wheelchair program, because you mentioned playing in Philly, how is the wheelchair program out here different than what initially started your love of wheelchair basketball?
When I initially started playing basketball, like I said, it was in Philly, and I have to give them a lot of credit, although I do in a sense feel that me and my teammates the first 2 years or so were more or less guinea pigs, and I'm okay with that because how far that program has come, it's night and day. These kids are fighting for national championships here and there. Some of them are being looked at to go to college to play basketball, and these are opportunities that if those first few seasons of bad play didn't happen, they might not have the opportunity. Whereas here in Vegas, most of the sports are generated for the older athlete in your 20s and above, past high school level. So I can relate to the people playing here a little bit more. Although I do wish there were some more junior sports here in Vegas for kids, and I think that's the only thing I would change with the program out here. I think the biggest difference between Vegas and Philly is the amount of funding that the actual city puts forth for it. Here in Vegas, all the programs more or less are run by the city. However, it's kind of take your pick, because back in Philly, you may have to pay a little bit here and there, but you have your own rec center, whereas we practice at a high school gym that lets us practice there. So it take your pick. That makes sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. What, if anything, have you learned about yourself from wheelchair athletics, with wheelchair basketball in mind?
Biggest thing I learned about myself playing wheelchair basketball is the limits I could push myself when, no pun intended, when I was actually really into something, when I had that passion. When, like I said a few times, when you're in the heart of a game and you're tired, you feel sick to your stomach because you're just that drained. When you see your teammates are playing just as hard as you, some probably playing harder, especially the ones that may be slightly more injured than you, and you see them busting their ass more than you ever tried, it fires you up. It makes you want to play harder. So I think that's the biggest thing that it showed me, that wheelchair basketball, any person with any type of passion for the game can play, and if you have the right mindset, you can achieve just about anything you want. I'm not saying everyone's going to go to Europe and be a professional, but you can make a difference on your team.
You mentioned Europe. What do you think will need to happen to have wheelchair sports in America be as big as they are in Europe?
I don't think, honestly, and I hate to say it, I don't think wheelchair sports will ever be as big here in America as they are in Europe, at least in my lifetime. I think there are so many other issues that need to be fixed first. As long as the racial divide is as big as it is here in America, the disability line won't really see the light of day, in my personal opinion. So I think we're too far out to talk about it being equal. And also, women's sports here in America are seen as a joke. It's a shame that the WNBA, for example, plays like 3 months during the summer, when the summer months are predominantly the months where people are out, where they aren't by their televisions, where they don't go out to events. They go to the beach. They go to things where they don't spend it out inside an arena watching sports. It just shows the level of care that Americans have for the sport. So I honestly don't think it'll ever get that big.
Okay, just a final A few final questions.
Whatever.
You talked about the racial divide and how wheelchair sports will never be seen, I guess, as important as long as that issue is there.
As well as the can't think of the right word, but male versus female. I think that's just as important, if not more important.
Is there anything those of us in the disability community can do to further along, or to move that process further along?
Play.
Like,
thing we can do to further that process to hopefully make it happen a generation sooner is play. Is go out in your community. You see someone pushing down the street. It's a small community. You probably know them, but if you don't and you haven't seen them play sports, hey, how's it going? You know, we have this program going on. Get it out there. That's the biggest thing. Here in Vegas, I would have never known the team if I wasn't with my wife walking our dog in the park. That's how I found out about the program here, and I'm glad I did.
Is there anything else that we haven't covered about wheelchair sports, about you specifically, that you would like to share for those that are watching? Okay. Good.